Sometimes wealth might seem unattainable, but rags to riches stories prove good times, and a lot of wealth does come if the person keeps their eye on the goal and seizes every opportunity life provides them. Many successful people started dirt poor in the streets and ended up with millions and sometimes billions. Today we're looking at 10 such people who went from extreme poverty to ultra rich. Let's begin. Number 10. Jim Carrey. Everyone knows this man today, but very few know his story. Comedian turned actor Jim Carrey boasts a net worth of $150 million, and a resume of movies that have grossed nearly $4.9 billion worldwide. But back when he was still a teenager, he actually had to drop out of high school. He used to live on a VW bus with his family. They used to park their bus every time in a different place throughout Canada. He eventually moved into his older sister's tent's front lawn. He parked the bus in the driveway and lived his life there. Jim once said that it was during these tough financial days he developed his sense of humor. How dark is that? I'm just happy things turned out well for Jim and his family. Number 9. Charlie Chaplin. Sir Charles Spencer Chaplin was a millionaire. And why wouldn't he be? The amount of work he did, the quality he produced, he deserved nothing less. But the fame and money, well, all that came later. First, Charlie had to win over life before he could win over the audience. He looked up to his mother as she was his inspiration. She was also the reason he became a comedian. A young boy who, in his first impromptu performance, had the audience on his feet, and his mother full of pride. But poverty was hovering over the family. He was only 7 when he and his half-brother, Sidney, were sent to a boarding school for orphans. His mother was soon admitted to a hospital and she soon passed away. Charlie would sleep on the street and had to search for food. He was only 14 at the time. He was poor and more so than ever. Charlie Chaplin spent all of his childhood in crisis. But that did help him as he turned his hardships to his advantage and became the greatest comedian the world ever saw. He earned a lot of money later, but was never able to save his mother, whom he loved more than anything else. Number 8. Oprah Winfrey. Best known for a multi-award winning talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, the highest rated program of its kind in history, Oprah Winfrey is dubbed as the Queen of all media, and ranked as the richest African American in the 20th century, and the first African American female to become a billionaire. But her path to success was one of the hardest on this list. She was born into poverty in rural Mississippi to a teenage single mother. She often spoke about the hardships she experienced during childhood, saying that she was sexually assaulted at age 9 and at age 13. After suffering years of abuse, she ran away from home. She became pregnant at 14 and her son died in infancy. While in high school, she landed a job in radio and began co-anchoring the local evening news at the age of 19. She got transferred to the daytime talk show arena because of her emotional ad-lib delivery. She became a millionaire at age 32 when her talk show went national. Oprah is credited with creating a more intimate, confessional form of media communication. Forbes' International Rich List has her listed as the world's only black billionaire from 2004 to 2006 and as the first black woman billionaire in the world history. As of now, she has a net worth in excess of $2.9 billion. Number 7. Roman Abramovich. Roman is actually a household name in London. The billionaire's worth mostly came in the form of steel and investments. He owns a stake in the steel giant Evraz, the UK's Chelsea soccer team, and Norilsk Nickel. And he's also the owner of the most expensive super yacht in the world, that cost Roman $1.5 billion. However, his journey started as an orphan in Russia who left Russia to become an entrepreneur. It was evident that he had a knack for making a profit out of nothing. That was proven during his time in the military when he sold stolen gasoline to army officers for a profit. Abramovich liquidated at least 20 different companies during the 90s, which is really what started his journey towards becoming a part of the Forbes billionaires list. These corporate takeovers were the beginning of his reputation as an investment mogul. With his multiple investments that turned millions in profit, it is fair to say that Roman has done pretty well for someone who was not left a single ruble by his parents. Number 6. Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban has become the face of entrepreneurship and investment thanks to his role on Shark Tank. But it wasn't always smooth sailing towards financial success for Mark Cuban. As a door-to-door garbage bag salesman who ate ketchup and mustard sandwiches while making ends meet, his life wasn't exactly glamorous. Even through college, he held odd jobs to keep his bills paid. But he began a computer consultation firm that earned him his first million, which he was able to turn into a web broadcasting empire that earned him his first billion. In 2000, he has bought a majority ownership stake in the Dallas Mavericks basketball team and has turned them into a successful NBA organization. He's notoriously hardworking and always on the lookout to continue to make more and more money. Number 5. J.K. Rowling. I was one of the kids that were lucky enough to grow up on Harry Potter, and looking back, it is hard to believe that the woman that contributed to millions of kids' childhood was finding it hard to pay rent while she did it. J.K. Rowling battled depression, financial difficulties, grieving over the death of her mother, and having to raise a child by herself while living on benefits. At the end of a pretty difficult journey, she found comfort in working on her own, writing, while her daughter slept. Once the first few chapters of the book were complete, she sent the manuscripts to publishers that rejected her left, right, and center. Finally, the Bloomsbury Publishing Company agreed to publish the book, but warned Rowling that she should get a day job because being a children's author is not enough to feed a family. When the first book was released, it was evident no job would be needed. Rowling was the first author to reach the billion mark, and her successful series has sold at least 500 million copies across the globe. The series has made over $7.7 billion, with the subsequent movies also bringing in money by the billions. Number 4. Hilary Swank. Though she is an Academy Award-winning actress today, Hilary Swank worked quite hard for her success. Her story is almost as dramatic as her on-screen roles. At 15, she left for school, and she went to Hollywood with her mother. They had so little money they slept in their old car and called agents from payphones. And yet, she doesn't view this existence as negative. She said that it gave her a lot to pull from. She was just trying to live her dream. Hilary and her mother moved to California as a teenager for building her career in acting. They had no place to stay in at the beginning, and so they tried to live in their car and slept in an empty house. Parts in TV shows, including a season on Beverly Hills 90210, from which she was fired, led less than a decade after she arrived, to Boys Don't Cry and the Oscar. Meeting her, you understand that this did not happen by chance. Rehearsing her role as a transgender teen in Boys Don't Cry, she passed herself off as a man for 2 weeks before filming began, fooling neighbors and friends in the process. Today, Miss Swank is worth a total of $40 million and an Oscar. This woman really is something else. Number 3. Mohamed Altrad. Born in a nomadic tribe in the Syrian desert to a poor mother who was assaulted by his father and died when he was young, Altrad was raised by his grandmother, who banned him from attending school in Raqqa, the city that is now the capital of ISIS. Altrad attended school anyway, and when he moved to France to attend university, he knew no French and lived off of one meal a day. Still, he earned a PhD in computer science, worked for some leading French companies, and eventually bought a failing scaffolding company, which he transformed into one of the world's leading manufacturers of scaffolding and cement mixers, Altrad Group. He has previously been named French Entrepreneur of the Year and World Entrepreneur of the Year. Number 2. George Soros. George is the type to invest in a franchise and make it into success. His humble beginnings were in Hungary, where he survived that nation's Nazi occupation. Soros' father, in fact, was instrumental in saving his son's life by paying off a government employee. After the war in 1947, Soros escaped his Iron Curtain and the Cold War life, and made it to London. He subsequently managed to earn a degree from the London School of Economics, but that's hardly the end of the story. Even after graduation, Soros was still living a modest life, working at a souvenir shop. Only later did he get rich and become part of a merchant bank that sparked his career as one of the most famous investors on the planet. Number 1. Jan Koum. When Facebook announced that it was buying mobile messaging startup WhatsApp for $19 billion in February 2014, it caused quite a stir. Jan Koum, the startup's co-founder, became the most talked about entrepreneur overnight. The media reported that WhatsApp floored Mark Zuckerberg so much that the record offer was made so that the two could become friends. A true rags to riches hero, Koum was born and raised in a village on the outskirts of Kiev, Ukraine, as the only child of a housewife and a construction laborer. Forbes reported that his house had no hot water, and his parents feared that their phone was tapped by the state, so they rarely talked on it. He immigrated to California with his mother when he was 16. He used to sweep the floor of a grocery store and stood in line to collect food stamps. By 18, he was an expert computer hacker. In 1997, Koum was hired by Yahoo as an infrastructure engineer. Shortly after, he met Brian Acton while working at Ernst & Young as a security tester. In January 2009, Koum bought an iPhone and realized that it would spawn a whole new industry of apps. On his birthday, February 24, 2009, he incorporated WhatsApp Inc. in California, and the rest is history. Or, should we say, a massive breach of privacy. That's good. Which one of these stories inspired you the most? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the video. Cheers!